Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds, I'm Nerdarchy Steve. Today I'm hanging out with this nerd. Well, we're suffering a little bit of a loss here in the Fryan household, but other than that, we will carry on. Dude, the Eagles lost to the Jets, man. That's embarrassing. It's a sports ball thing. It is a shame. It is the shame of shames. It is literally the first time I think it's the first time they've ever lost to the Jets. It's really bad. Uh huh. Yeah, well, at least Dallas is good sometimes as a team, and you kind of have to give them that, right? But it's like I feel like the Eagles need to have, dude, who are the law and order constructs? They need to be no, not the Modrons. The damn it, they're way more impressive than yeah. They, it might be time to send them out because someone should be punished. Yeah. And there used to be, well, there's only one. Like they're only showing the one now, but like in previous edition, there was like a hand. And it was. I think some of them may have appeared in the other books as well, but yeah, it might be time. Inevitables. That's what they are. Yeah. As a beloved pet died. They can't hear you. Hold on a second. God damn it. Yeah, it's something. It's probably the audio settings, or they're just like, we're just not gonna listen to Ted. That should do it. Thanks, chat.
Dave just doesn't like me talking to you guys. I don't know what it
Yeah,
is.
silence. I cast silence on Ted. you know,
So
it's such a pain in the ass, dude. Use the same software several times a week, every week, and it just randomly like, yeah, we're just gonna change stuff.
doesn't matter how many times we check it and whatever have you. They just don't want me talking.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, but
I cast
like
silence.
when you talked about it being sad, I thought you meant like a pet died because here in the Adams household we went through that recently. One of the snakes passed away, so it was like
Yeah.
that sucked. But
Well,
no, you're just talking about sports ball.
yeah, yeah. Well, I imagine you didn't get a glitch and get another version.
No, no, we're actually gonna be phasing the snakes out as they pass on. Um, the boy who's 15 going on 16 is like, well, I know I'm eventually gonna be looking at college, and I don't want to be trying to take snakes with me to college or having to have somebody else take care of them. So I'm just gonna give up snakes, as they
Yeah.
go, and when he eventually gets a place of his own, he can start over with a new brood.
Yeah, but I guess people aren't here to hear us talk about eagles and snakes and sports ball. They want to
we
know.
got some we got some Planescape going on.
They want to hear about Planescape. So my first and foremost great disappointment with Planescape is the thing about Planescape from its earliest inception, and you can honestly say the same thing about Dark Sun as well, was the art, right? That was the first thing that kind of like reached out and grabbed you.
Hmm.
And it is one of the few times that, to be honest with you, when I was younger, that I even paid attention to who the artist was for those particular settings, right? And like, I don't know that those settings would have been as successful without those artists. For Dark Sun, you had Brahm, and like that aesthetic just totally set the whole tone for that world. And you could say the
Absolutely.
same thing for Planescape with Tony Diorlizzi.
Hmm.
The that early art was so amazing, and also those two art styles were so drastically different than anything else that D&D had put out, right? So it really like set it apart. Like you knew you were looking at something different.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
there's a little bit of sadness for me to see that we don't have the awesome Tony D. Lizzie art.
Sure, but it's a scenario where like the art that's in the book like is it's not bad. Like, it's certainly a an enjoyable, process as I'm flipping through. I mean, we just got these books this week, so like we clearly have not read everything cover to cover. We're just
Yeah,
kind of go in and pick and choose some things here and there to kind of discuss.
and if people have
And
questions, we can like look stuff up, right? Like,
Absolutely. Now I with the reading that I did do, I tended to favor heavily the player oriented stuff, which talked
mhm.
about, you know, what the player characters are going to get access to. And then I looked at the monster book. So you've got Sigil and the Outlands, which is going to have some new backgrounds, some new feats. It's going to have some spells and some magic items. And it's got some basic lore that you get to be able to play around with. Then you've got, Mort's Planar Parade, which is littered with, this talking skulls, little quips and jibes littered throughout the whole book, which is just utterly fantastic. It's got some lore stuff and then a crap ton of new monsters to play with. So all in all, I was quite happy to dive into these books today.
Yeah, and so you're looking at the actual books, and I'm kind of looking at D&D Beyond.
Mhm.
Um, because we got a stack of books, and we wanted to keep some of them sealed because we're gonna be sending them out to you guys at some point or another. They've gone into the stack of giveaway. But on D&D Beyond, anyway, one of the things that stood out to me right away was how prominent the artist name was for all the illustrations. And as you pointed out, it's not that the art is bad, but it doesn't have the distinctive style that Planescape was known for in the past.
I can understand and respect that choice. I became a fan of Planescape much later without having played much in it. For me, much of my Planescape love came from the video game. So like that was a thing that was like, oh wow, you get to really explore this world that is pretty darn amazing.
So, so Amazon has it coming out on the 18th. And we get
I don't know. I'm looking at it still showing as the 17th on
oh,
my end.
okay. I don't know. I just pulled up Amazon, and this is saying the 18th. So, oh, okay. It says the title. That's weird. It actually says it'll be delivered on the 18th, but it released on the 17th. So you can go track it down on the 17th. But again, kind of like Spelljammer, they're doing the 3 books in a slipcase and the DM screen, as well as a big fold out map, right? Have you taken a
Yeah,
look at the DM screen?
I honestly I have not looked at Turn of Fortune's Wheel or the DM screen, so I figured I'd pop that open now and begin looking at it. So with this thing here, you're gonna have I'll just kind of hold this up and showcase the whole thing as best as I can since this is gonna go in front of my face and I can't see. So all in all, I think the artwork on the DM screen is pretty nice. So you have the standard things of things you can do on your turn: long jump, high jump, concentration. Then you've got cover, obscured areas, damage
What
by
about
level, and
actual like Planescape stuff?
I was going to get to that part. That's all on the other side of it here. So you've got the gate towns of the Outlands, and then you've got a map of the whole circle with the tower, the ascendant factions of Sigil, which has got their name, their epithet, as well as the summary. That's got the wards of Sigils, a D100 for encounters in Sigil, a D100 for encounters in the Outlands, and then a D100 planar portals. So all in all, I think these two are really what's going to be like the dominant aspect of what you want to use within a Planescape game.
Now, are they set up more like random encounters, or just like stuff happens, or a combination?
So I mean, spoiler, the encounters in Sigil, Cranium Rats, or Dabus, Barium Wanderers, Harmonium Peacekeepers on patrol, Dust Method Messengers, Razorvine Blight. So like they're totally random encounters. Um, so like you could it has nothing to do with your level. It just is like, all right, well, we're gonna as the term applies, random encounter.
As it should be, as it should be. So Sigil in the Outlands is a 96-page book, and that's basically here's the setting, here's your character options, which there aren't a ton of, but there are a few. Turn of Fortune's Wheel is the adventure, also 96 pages, and then you get the Mortis Planar Parade, which is a 64-page, and it's basically your monster manual.
And there's a lot of really fun things in here, and I was enjoying the artwork. So like right there on the cover page, you've got a cranium rat. It's kind of sleeping, and it's kind of adorable. As I began kind of flipping through, it's got a cool picture of some sunflies, which are a new like pest/pet creature. And then it's got a group of essentially animals and a person kind of resting in an idyllic glade, which of course my daughter, who's obsessed with frogs, totally was like, oh my god, frogs. There was a frog sitting on top of a frog, which
you need to have beasts in beast land, so
that's true.
So also so I guess like the player options, right? We're going to get a couple of backgrounds, and they're essentially the direction that the game has gone with backgrounds, so they're kind of powered up. You're going to get the typical stuff you expect from a background, and also you're going to get an ability that's equivalent to a feat. And if you're playing
and the feat is nothing major, like you're gonna get resistance to a damage type based on alignment, and a specific cantrip based on whatever's there. And like one of the cantrips isn't even an aggressive or attack cantrip. So like this one's of all the things that I've seen, like this is the least of the hey, I've got I'm getting a feat for my background.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not quite as pumpy as some of the other ones, especially like the Glory of Giants. Like some of those were a bit more impressive. But then also, like if you're playing Planescape, it's like here, if a player doesn't choose one of these backgrounds, give them tough or skilled, right? So that's basically whatever the next version of 5.8 is like you're going to start off with it, regardless, And I imagine if you're human, you're going to start off with 2 now.
Right.
But
why, like,
go ahead.
Which is why like all of those progressive feats that are based off of the things that backgrounds give you have the caveat of you need to be 4th level or whatnot, because they don't want humans having them access to both right away.
Yeah. Hating on the humans.
Not hating, just balancing it versus like, because initially feats when they were designed weren't something that players were getting general access to at 1st level, and then
they were optional too. But like I've seen very few games ever where that option wasn't exercised.
Sure.
Yeah. So so you have a little bit of power up there. We're also going to get access to a couple new spells. Not many. I think it's like two.
Yep.
This book, and then like three magic items in this book. So this book really is about the setting and getting into playing a Planescape game, and getting out into Sigil, as well as dealing a lot with the factions, which is like
Yep.
a big part of Sigil, and playing in that game.
Yeah, when my real soul experience was playing Planescape Torment, and factions were massive, in that particular setting, and does seem to carry over into what I've read so far.
So, I know you haven't really looked at the adventure, but the premise is kind of interesting. At least the start of it is basically you're playing the amnesia characters,
Hmm.
and they're calling it a glitch in the multiverse. So you're
Okay.
starting at third level. You might not necessarily know why you're third level, and it suggests that you make two other characters up as well and make them versions of your character, and they're calling them incarnations. So basically, you get a couple of do-overs. I guess if your character dies, then you get to play the incarnation.
I like that.
I thought you
That's
might.
the that sounds like a lot of fun.
So I
You
mean,
know,
I think like they're mostly the same character, but
mhm.
they can have slight variations or differences. And like the artwork is of like three versions of the same character. So
That I think that could be a really interesting concept to play with.
and then it also talks a little bit about like if if the original incarnation dies and gets resurrected, like then there's more of them running around than just you.
Right.
Obviously, I would say, as a GM, you pick the one that you're going to play, and the other one goes off to do whatever.
Mhm.
But yeah, so you could have other versions of yourself running
I mean, to me, like that would automatically, put in there of like, all right, well, you're going to encounter yourself as a possible good guy, a possible bad guy,
somewhere in
and
between.
I would totally have those encounters like plotted and planned out as the all right, I'm gonna have fun with this.
So I think the concept is from levels like 3 to 17 ish. You're like basically the adventure is you trying to figure out what the glitch is in the multiverse and get back your memories.
Well, I mean, I've played that style of game, just not in Planescape, in my college days. uh, we literally had a game where like legitimately our characters were made by the DM. The We were handed blank character sheets, and like it was a major headache on my buddy Jim, who like anytime we tried to do something, if we hadn't figured out what our mechanics were or any of that stuff, like he would tell us like, okay, like we would tell him what number we rolled, and he would let us know like normally, but he would have to do all of the math.
Uh,
And as people who became spellcasters or found out they were spellcasters, like they had to essentially kind of relearn some magic. And this was during the time where I played characters that like to just hit things with big weapons. So like I was like a tiefling polearm master kind of style, before polearm master was a thing, because this was a 3E game or a 3-5 game. Uh, but uncovering our past and uncovering ourselves was a major part of the game. You encounter an NPC who they know you, but you don't know them, and it's like, I don't know who you are.
I'm not gonna lie, that type of game does not appeal to me at all.
Sure, and it's not for everybody. Not everybody wants to play in that game. Not everybody wants to run in that. Um, for us, it was just one of those things that Jim presented it, and everybody was down for it, and said had a lot of fun with it.
So a huge part of the monster book is basically just agents from the factions.
Mm-hmm.
So to kind of like sprinkle them through the world and make it uh, a little bit more sigilly, I guess. And and they, I like these because they all have unique abilities that I like to see in the NPCs because they kind of went away from that in I think it was like around Dragon Heist, and I'm not sure where they started working it back. Like towards like Dragon Heist and Mad Mage, they started like taking away the special abilities from NPCs and just making them more like closer to character class features.
Mm.
Which for us, our group, I think we really fell in love with in Curse of Strahd when it started introducing NPCs and kind of giving them like a monster treatment, monster stat block, where they had
Yep.
cool, unique features, and they just weren't like, oh, here's a light version of a barbarian or a fighter, from
Right. Yeah.
Player's Handbook.
Having characters, that have abilities that the players don't have access to is exactly what the NPC stat block is supposed to be about. And like we saw that in spades in last night's game session, where like you use something from a third party book that was absolutely amazing and terrifying, and literally like almost every single player was like, I need to know what that is, because like everybody at that table is a DM outside of this particular group, so like, yeah, I'm using that.
Yeah, it was quite ridiculous. Matter of fact, it was something I hadn't heard of before, and when the individual was telling me about, I was like, I need to use this. My players are gonna hate you. Both the creature and the person that suggested it.
Well, I certainly don't hate the person that suggested it, and I certainly don't hate you. There was definitely elements of, I am terrified that we are going to lose somebody tonight. We didn't have access to the only person in the party who had healing magic. We burned through every single last healing potion that we had access to, and we barely got out of there. Like, we had 2 times where it's like, oh no, you failed to save, you're at 0 hit points. Have fun with that. And it's like, ah!
Yeah, that was a little mean, but also fun. It was different. You can look to the Nerdarchy website because I've been told I should put up an article over there about that session.
Yeah, 100%. I think, like, even if you just put up the maze, because I think the maze was amazing. But the whole session was a really, rock solid go. And for a 10th level party, you really beat the shit out of
Yeah, so and
us.
I actually think it would fit in with a Planescape game right quite nicely, right? So
Absolutely. And that's the tangential thing, because we did go essentially somewhere else. We were taken from, the plane we were on, and we were someplace different, because we had, a situation where not everybody was going to be there. So you wanted to do something different.
yeah, so it was the Carnival of Chaos was kind of the place where everything took part. And I could definitely see like one of the doors to Sigil opening up to a place like this, right?
Yeah.
And like being like, oh, we found ourselves here, and now we have to find ourselves find out how to get out of here and back to where we belong. So we're just about to the halfway mark. So I think it's only fair to mention that our sponsor for this evening's live chat is Easy Roller Dice. Whether it's your first set of dice or your 1 millionth set of dice, Easy Roller Dice for all your dice rolling needs. Now we mentioned we had gotten a stack of these books that we're going to be giving away. So I believe we have two. So we have 3 different slip cases. 2 are the standard edition, and 1 is the special edition that we're putting in the giveaway pile. Does that sound correct to you, Ted?
Yeah, that's usually what winds up happening.
So if you happen to be a member of our newsletter, if you happen to be a
patron,
we're going to be drawing. We draw every month. We draw a name out of the hat, the virtual hat, and send them something from the pile, the giveaway pile. Usually several somethings.
Yeah, so with as big as the Planescape box is, we're definitely going to grab one of them for the November giveaway and possibly even the December. December we tend to go a little bit heavier, but we'll have to see exactly what's going on at that point in time to find out what exactly is going to head possibly your way.
So Kurth actually brings up a really good point about how like the early Planescape art didn't feel it had this like almost like unfinished quality to it, and where now it feels so much more polished. But that unfinished quality, that less polish, was actually part of the charm of the original Planescape art. It's definitely like it was one of the settings you could just look at. You could look at a piece from it and you just knew it was Planescape. And and
Yeah,
now it all just looks like 5e art.
I wouldn't necessarily say like it looked unfinished, but it had a certain, aspect to it. And while I enjoyed it, I don't have that same love and attachment that that you do towards Planescape. I definitely like similar as much as I loved Dark Sun or love Dark Sun, because while we don't have it for 5e official and probably won't ever, I loved Dark Sun. I thought it was one of the most unique settings.
Well, it's not like so much that like like I enjoyed the different settings, but what I liked from AD&D was being able to look at the art from a particular setting and just know knowing what setting it came from at a glance.
Mm-hmm.
Where like 5e, it's like no, this is all just D&D.
So I could only ever do that with Dark Sun because that's the only one that I had that attachment towards. Whether you have Greyhawk, Dragonlance, Forgotten Realms, Planescape, Dark Sun, and a handful of others that are less well known. It's just is like it's there.
So, but I guess part of it too is like even when we didn't play those games back then, like a lot of us just collected them, right? And that was like the heyday of box sets.
Oh yeah,
like everything was a box set.
And there's something to be said about that. And like while we don't have box sets the same way we do, now versus then. Now we got the slipcases for Spelljammer and for Planescape, and who knows what the next one is going to wind up being. But to have the books all together with the DM screen, I think it adds a little bit of pizzazz to it.
The hardback books are definitely nicer, right? Like the set of hardback books is nicer than the box set once you open the box, right? Because then it was all like soft core, like soft cover and stapled together. It wasn't like the best quality,
right? But I mean, it was also like at a time frame when quality had to be sacrificed because we didn't have the massive fan base that D&D has now. So it was like, you gotta take what you can get.
So one of the comments, I think Ted's favorite setting is Dark Sun, due to the possibility of a half-giant dominatrix.
Oh my god,
that's a deep dive right there.
This is the the second time that this is recently been brought back up. That's like we've told that story a number of times. No, I believe that is probably my worst experience with Dark Sun. Love goes out to the player that tormented me with that particular character, but
Multiverse DM. I have almost 1,000 D&D PDFs. No bookshelf needed. They're gonna watch it. They're gonna send. They're gonna send the Pinkertons to your house to get your PDFs.
I mean, there's like in the 3.5 days, like the amount of like people who really like, all right, I must collect everything digitally, was a big deal. Like now, like digital is a more norm for a lot of things, but not with the the wizards. They're like, nope, you want
Yeah,
it
D&D
digitally.
Beyond. D&D Beyond is the
Yeah,
closest thing you're getting officially.
yep, yep.
But that being said, I
It's
I mean, I like using it. It is one of the things. Like, I like some of the features. Like, like I like using the encounter builder. I think it makes
yep.
running encounters so much easier, and keeps me on track.
Yeah, except for when like somebody does a reaction out of turn, and you're like, okay, are you done? I'm like, no, that was my reaction.
That wasn't even my turn.
I used a new spell that Dave had never seen before in last night's game, and it impacted things enough of like he's like, holy crap.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, people look up
Yeah,
for
I
reflection.
was hoping to hold that one off until
Uh,
you wound up using my nemesis, but we were in dire straits last night, so I was not willing to hold on to that card yet, for that.
let's see. Don't want to change the subject, but what do you guys think of the version of races presented in Dark Sun? For example, elves can be 7 foot. Every race is stronger, tougher. Half giants, half dwarf. Well, I mean, being that we were pretty big fans of Dark Sun, I would say we liked it. And also, like, I think we even tried like there was a third edition conversion that
Fourth.
we tried. Was a fourth? No, I think there was a third though too. The third edition, the fourth edition, there was actually just Dark Sun. Like they did the
Mhm.
campaign setting, but in third edition, it was like Dragon magazine stuff or something.
Oh yeah, I do remember those. And
Yeah.
it was like, well, we're gonna try our hand at seeing what you want to do to kind of have things flavored, but it was nowhere near like a campaign setting worth of information.
No, because it was like a couple articles. So, but I believe even still, we tried to like get our fix anyway. I mean,
Well,
Dark Sun is where we got the Thrycreen really gained its prominence. I don't know exactly that it started there, but that's where it became a lot more prominent. The Eric Croker, I think, did start there, and kind of has really evolved since that like ugly vulture man, which I kind of miss. I have a fondness for
well,
the earlier races.
sure, but I mean, you could still have the Aarakocra be, vulture. Like I envision the Aarakocra as like all the different types of avian. So like you could have a
Yeah,
vulture, you could have a hawk, you
well,
could have an
the
owl.
original version, they were a little more vulture like. They weren't really quite vultures, but they also had like the hand wings.
Hmm.
But their feet were basically prehensile. They could basically use their feet to do stuff with.
Hmm.
So when they're flying, they couldn't use their hands, but they would like throw javelins with their feet, and they like had a special maneuver where they basically did this dive bomb at you and then release the javelin at the very end of it. So they were much different. They weren't eagle people.
So while this isn't exactly, Planescape related, that's another thing that you could do is like, if you don't like the Aarakocra and you want the vulture people, like dive in, make that race of like, to harken back to, the monster and race of old.
Oh no! Now, Jay Harmless is asking 3E questions. We've not played 3E in so many years. But like any combination you could think of, somebody at the table must have tried it. I mean, there were so many different build options, especially when you start getting into these flat books.
Oh
I
yeah.
can't imagine. I can't imagine it didn't show up at our table at some point or another.
Well, I mean, we went hardcore into that by, really playing with, the monster ECLs. We played a Gestalt game that, like, you essentially leveled two classes at the same time. When you're playing games every single week, like, we ran through lots and lots of characters and options, and somebody die, roll up a new character. So, like, we saw a lot.
So their other question is, did you guys not transition to Pathfinder 1E after 3.5 because you didn't like the crunch? You guys strike me as being more to narrative and RP than combat overall. Overall. Well, you mentioned Gish before, but I feel like we are the Gish between crunch and narrative and role play.
Right.
Um, and I guess like when 4E came out, like it was so different than what D&D was before that I found it kind of intriguing and refreshing in the beginning, and there were a lot of cool concepts, but after a while we kind of got bored with it because it seemed very samey. And where I guess a lot of other groups were inclined to go into Pathfinder, we just went into a different system. We started, and really that happened because we just started playing a different genre. We went from playing a fantasy genre to playing supers, and then from there we discovered Mutants and Masterminds, which also had like fantasy versions of the game and like any kind of version you could think of. They probably had a splat book for it, and we just started really getting into that and realized it was a D20 system. It was loosely based off of 3.5, so the mechanics were very familiar to us. So in some ways we did go into a different 3.5 system. It just wasn't Pathfinder. We actually went with something that we found to be way more flexible. It was classless. Mutants of Mastermind is still a fantastic game. um, if I wanted to play a supers game, more than likely that's the system I would use. And with each edition of that game, it got further and further away from the third edition elements to kind of and the D&D isms to kind of really make it a unique game and come into its own. So like the further it got away from the D&D roots, I feel like the better that game got.
I would agree with that as well. That was a fine assessment of our transition. We did play a Dark Sun Pathfinder game for a number of sessions that Nerdarchy Ryan had ran. Um, but it didn't really take off. Ryan's a great GM, but you know, Pathfinder didn't really appeal to us all that much. Um, but there was never, like, at the table, there was never a talk of like, hey, D&D is going in a new direction. Do we want to stay with the rule set that we've got? Like, no, we play D&D here. And we played fourth edition for about a year and a half, with Dave consistently being the DM for all of it. Um, until they kind of unilaterally, we just were like, yeah, let's do something different. And one of our friends was like, hey, I'll run a game. And they pulled out a Palladium book, and we played Palladium. And like, people made characters, and the system was so unbalanced for our table that it was like, this doesn't really make sense. And I don't remember the specifics, but there was one session where there was an encounter where, out of like the 4 to 6 players, two of them were able to like soundly, fight the boss without any kind of problems, where everybody else was getting their asses handed to them. And it's like, this doesn't really seem like what we're looking for. And that's where Dave decided, all right, he's going to start looking. And he went and started pulling out every kind of supers rule set he could find access to. And I had never heard of Mutants and Masterminds until Dave said, hey, I think we should use this system instead.
Well, so I just I outsourced to the internet, and the internet
Well,
told
yeah.
me to either play Champions or Mutants of Masterminds. Mutants and Masterminds was closer to what we were used to. So I felt like it was going to be easier sell for our group.
Sure.
And yeah,
and it worked.
And it worked, and that's kind of how we ended up. Not going to Pathfinder, I guess.
Right. And then, like we've even run some Mutants and Mastermind games, here on the channel. I know in the somewhat future, I'm going to be running Mutants and Masterminds for one of our home games.
It is looking like it's going to be a tick style game.
Oh, are people looking to go that direction?
James wants to play Lobster Boy.
Okay.
So he wants a lobster based superhero, and I think like if you actually had the real powers of a lobster, that'd be pretty impressive. I don't think that's the route he's going.
So like we have to figure out and I know this is far afield of Planescape. You have to set the power level of the game, and make characters. But my thought is all right, are we looking for something more? What's the word I'm looking for? Do we want a tick style game? Do we want something very very humorous? Less serious. Do we want something that's more Justice League, where supers are in the know and can literally have merchandise or fandoms? Or were we looking to play a game that was more like supers are unknown, and you guys are kind of gonna be the breaking off element into this kind of thing? So I've been mentally working on this for a while because I knew that it was going to happen. So I've got lots of thoughts depending.
What is MDM?
In relation to what?
Let's see. Over the next couple of years, people will discover that MDM is the D&D they know and love by 75%, but 75% faster, plus forward and backward compatible. I'm not sure what that is. MDM.
That sounds like it's an internet search of MDM RPG and see what comes up.
Yeah, or maybe Multiverse DM will just Multiverse DM. Okay, I see what you did there. I think it's their own thing. Well, I mean, there's also ICRPG as well, which is very very much a stripped down version of D&D, but still gives you a lot of that is way faster.
I enjoyed playing in Next Card RPG. We did a whole video on it. You can check it out on the channel when this is over, if you're very interested or slightly interested. The book comes with a lot of really cool roll charts that you can wind up pulling into a lot of other RPGs because they're system agnostic. So I have a lot of fun with it.
But yeah, I mean, and also we're kind of in the golden age of RPGs now. There's so many out there, so many OSR games have come out. So I feel like D&D has been stripped down and repackaged so many times at this point.
Right, and you can flavor your D&D with Pathfinder. You can flavor your D&D with Dungeon World. You can flavor your D&D with Quest, with Mutants and Masterminds, with the Cipher system. There's so many different ways, so different rule sets to play your standard fantasy game. Whatever it is that you want to use, go ahead and use. And I find it amusing that the term D&D has become in a lot of ways synonymous with just RPGs. And even some of the groups that we play with, they're like, oh, I can't wait to play D&D tonight. We're not playing,
and none of them actually play D&D. Yeah, that is kind of funny. Although at this point we should also mention, so we kind of went off this tangent about other RPGs.
I was getting there.
Is that where you're going? All right, I will let you
That's where I was.
continue.
That's where I was leading to. But the one game that, while we might be in this, age of RPGs, the one game that's not out there yet is Zoo Mafia. So next month is going to be the release of our Kickstarter to get your own copy of one Zoo Mafia RPG. There's going to be a link down in the description below for our watch page, which, if you're interested, you should go check it out, so that during the first, was it 48 hours, Dave?
48 hours, 72. We keep saying both, so I don't know.
All
We'll
right.
see what it
All
ends
right.
up
So,
being.
all
Get
right.
there
Well,
early.
so if it's 48 or 72, I guarantee you that if you're back in the first 48 hours, you're going to get the special dice that is not available for purchase until it gets, unlocked. But the dice of Bunny Malone, which is we've just seen the art for, which is awesome.
Yeah, well,
So
I mean, you should probably tell them what Zoo Mafia is. So,
what?
like,
If they're watching this, they should already know what Zoom Mafia is.
well, maybe, but
All
so
right,
Zoo
you
Mafia
go.
is our Powered by Apocalypse hack, where you play a zoo animal by day, but by night you are trying to get into one of the mafias in the Zoo Mafia. There are 3 crime bosses that rule the zoo, and it is set during Prohibition. So you're an old timey gangster, or you want to be an old timey gangster, and work your way. You and your mob want to work your way into the employment and get made into either Al Capone's mob or Carlo Hambino, and there is also Machine Gun Otto, and we're going to be adding Bunny Malone, which actually hasn't been mentioned anywhere else yet. This is like the first time. We had just gotten back the art from it, the concept art for Bunny Malone, and it looks freaking awesome. Everyone who has played Zoo Mafia thus far, at least to our faces anyway, seems to have really enjoyed it. It is it is something that we haven't seen out there. Like, there are gangster games, and I guess there's games about playing animals, but there are no games about playing gangster animals as of yet. So
I'm thoroughly enjoying playing this game. We have a new campaign that's going to be starting in the relative future. So it'll kind of coincide along with our Kickstarter game. But Zoo Mafia is absolutely fantastic. I've gotten loads of positive response from one of the games that I ran at a convention. The when the game was over, one of the players was like, "I need this in my life," and I really wish when he said that I would have been like, "Hey, can I get this as a quote, and use this?" Because that was like as positive a message as you can possibly get of like, all right, I need to be on the know for this.
yeah, so Fantasy Grounds College, Fantasy Grounds Academy is in the house and bringing it back to Planescape. And one of the cool things about Sigil was the fact that the City of Doors could take you to any other plane of existence. Pretty much, it was kind of the hub of the cosmos, where you could go to get to other places, and also just if you want to, right from the get go, kind of run a plane spanning campaign. It is the perfect place to launch your campaign world from. Or you could just never leave Sigil itself and find plenty of adventure there. And I think that's like part of the charm, and one of the cool things about it is, like, yes, this place could be a springboard to many other adventures and types of adventures, or you could literally never leave the confines of the city without running out of adventure.
I would say that the sound that's a good way of saying it. My brain is jelly today. I apologize. And that's one of the amazing things about Sigil is it's so rich, it's so vibrant. There's a lot of lingo and lore that you can really play around with.
That's the other thing I'm disappointed. Unless I missed it, but I was looking. I really want
You want the lingo,
a glossary of all the lingo.
yeah. Oh, I mean,
Like, I feel like that was such a big part of the game. Like, if you're playing Planescape and you don't hear Cutter at least once, are you even playing Planescape? Come on.
I mean, there's a lot of I'm certain it exists somewhere out in the multiverse.
Oh, sure. I mean, and you can clearly, that is something you can, you know, pull from previous editions. I'm sure it's out there. If you want to bring that authenticity from the earlier editions, but it would have been a nice like throwback to have a
Have a
little
glossary.
glossary in there for that stuff. I mean,
Well,
like,
I mean,
for Zoo Mafia, part of the fun was like this, rediscovering or discovering all the lingo from that era, right? And figuring out how to work it
mhm.
into the game and how to work it into the characters, and even the players that have played, even people that have played it for like the first time are like looking up on their phones, like the different lingo so they can use it with their characters.
Well, we had a handful of people who've run some Zoo Mafia games, uh, and our our one friend, Unmade Gaming, like the players each had their own like lingo thing that they looked up, and during the game, like they were using these words, not always using it right, having a lot of fun, but they were using lingo just to use the lingo.
Listen, I wholly support that, and I'm here for it.
Oh, completely. I'm not trying to throw shade. I'm trying to say it was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, so on Me Gaming, you can find some live plays of Zoo Mafia, not ran by us, or not
And
even
and if
affiliated with us.
Right. And if you also look into Erasmus Expedition, that's my friend Jeremy's channel that I played alongside for many years over on MTD. He also ran a game that we had put together, and he did not use any of our bosses. He made up some of his own stuff, which was truly awesome because
Oh, you can't do
they're
that. I
both.
think that's against the rules.
No, I mean that's part of the rules is to make up your own stuff.
We're not Gary Gygax. You must use these rules as written. Your fun is wrong. I kid. I kid.
So
So are you ready? So are you ready to play a Planescape game now?
I mean, I have to get my glossary before I can, do that. But absolutely,
I'm sure that's got to be online somewhere. Matter of fact,
oh yeah,
I don't know if I'd pay for it, but I'm pretty sure you could buy. You could probably buy the old second edition Planescape over on the DMs Go because they have all the books from all the editions. But I don't think I'd pay for just that. Someone has put it on the interwebs somewheres. It's out there. And cutter is the only. I think that's the only slang that I remember.
so there is the planerdm.com planar slang, uh, is a whole thing. So you'd mentioned the word cutter, generic complimentary term for a person that suggests resourcefulness or daring.
I couldn't even have
So
told you what it meant. I just knew it was some kind
I
of
just I
slang.
knew it was a good
And you
thing.
you called other people cutter. That was that was it.
Yeah,
That's all I knew.
it was a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think it means something completely different now, as a negative connotation.
Oh right, yeah. It's
You end up in the psych ward if you're a cutter.
right.
We do not recommend that type of cutting.
No, we don't. Positive mindset. But there's a lot of stuff here. So like I literally typed in, Planescape lingo and several sites came up. So it ain't hard to find if you're really looking to, get into it. Um, you know, I a lot of stuff comes out, and while I know that we've talked many times about not really running and playing the pre-written adventures, the Last Giants book, and Planescape. Like I'm like, all right, I kind of wish that I could get into that and see what those campaigns look like.
I would
Maybe it's
say
because
probably of most of the campaigns that come out, Planescape is the one that I'd be probably the most interested in exploring. You know,
yeah, I would agree with that.
for our group anyway, which does mostly homebrew stuff, and we'll cherry pick these books for new items, monsters, spells, class features, class or character options. But the idea of playing in a Planescape campaign could be a lot of fun. Especially like doing like kind of like a heist style game, or like a Thieves Guild style game, but on a cosmic level.
Oh yeah,
That could be a blast.
that could be a ton of fun. And like when you start looking at, the vast array of factions, um, you know, pull out the book for it, but like, um, now let's see here, factions. Yeah, you've got 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So perfectly a D12 you could roll. So like you could almost like the numbers are should have been put in there to make it easy to have it be a roll chart, not just listed there. But each of these factions is really cool with a unique set of personality types to go along with it. Whether you want to play somebody that's a mercy killer, you're out there to cause justice, or you're the hands of havoc that are out there to just be like, you know what, we're going to cause chaos and this is going to be great. There's the fated, the takers. This is like, all right, you are owed whatever it is that you can take and keep. I'm like, wow, that's absolutely absurd. And there's a lot of D&D players that would be drawn to something like that, where I'm like, yep, if I want something, all I got to do is get it, and then that means I'm supposed to have it.
Globulus Johnson, Suicide Squad like mission with baddies imprisoned on Caracy. I'm saying that completely wrong. Prison planet for a Planescape campaign or one shot. Yeah, that would be absolutely be a friggin' blast. And Planescape just lends itself to that. Sigil lends itself to that. Makes it really easy, as the multiverse DM has already stated. It just sets you up, and it also just opens up for lots of different styles of play. Where like if you think about a Ravenloft game, like you really only have, I think, 2 ways of playing Ravenloft, right? Like you're either trying to become Dark Lords or you're trying to get out of Ravenloft. I don't feel like there's much in between. It's D&D. You can play however. But
are you telling me you can't? You tell me you can't do a slapstick Ravenloft?
Well, you could maybe make something out, but the setting itself doesn't lend itself to that.
Right. I was kidding.
I know. Whereas Planescape lends itself to do a lot of different things and do them well.
Indeed.
So we are coming up on the hour mark here, so that's going to be it for tonight. We'll be back next week with our next live chat, our next weekly live chat. We don't have a game this week, right? No games this week.
Yeah, we're off this week and next due to finishing up our Vast Grim game last week, which if you hadn't checked it out, you can see the culmination of that particular story. And see
you
all
can
12
catch
episodes.
the playlist there. Check it out. But we'll be back, and we'll be starting a new series, a new Zoo Mafia game. Also, I think we're going to do this with a little bit of a twist Steven has teased out. He wants to add some supernatural elements to it. So we'll see how that goes. But we've been assembling our mob, and a mob is slang, 1920 slang for gang. It has nothing to do with the mafia or mobsters per se. But our mob is going to be trying to figure out which crime boss we're going to work for. So with that, until next time, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.